Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today we're doing F tier 0 to Hero Assassination Rogue episode 2. I'm sorry for being quiet on YouTube lately. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and honestly, a little bit of burnout. I just kind of needed a break. I am back, I'm ready to go, and I have lots of great content ideas for you. With that, let's get into Assassination Rogue. Now, we started the week at item level 413 and an IO of 1155. We go into the vault and we have a couple of different options that we can choose from. There is a hero tier weapon, but I am fully planning on having my weapons crafted, and I'm planning on those being my first 447 crafts the moment I can really get up to aspect crafts level. Now, I did just opt for the gloves. I wanted 4-piece, and I wanted to try and get into this as fast as possible. Whether that was the right choice or not, I'm not sure. Like I said, I am planning on fully crafting my weapons and making those go a little bit quicker, so the gloves, I could just not worry about it. Champion track, we're good to go, right? Let's see what happens. But we start the key off with a 14 Freehold, and right off the bat, I am reminded of how difficult it is to find a tank and a healer. Of course, we get trolled a little bit. Some people try and come into the key from stream, which is something I'm trying to work around, and they're like, wait, why are you denying 2,600 people? And then the people that I did get were leaving my group. So we are coming up with some anti-troll measures, but that kind of is what it is. If not, then this is going to kind of have to be completely done off stream, but we'll see what happens. But we do end up getting the Holy Trinity of Paladins, a Holy, and a Protection Paladin. And we get into the first pull of Freehold, and my god, I love this pull. There's a couple of things to kick, there's a couple frontals to watch out for, and it is just an AoE fuckfest. It is so good. I enjoy it. It's a dangerous pull, but it's a fun pull when executed right. And it's just AoE fun. It's AoE goodness. It's why you want to go into a dungeon and to see those big numbers. And for an item level like 413 Assassination Rogue, coming out of that pull with like 189, almost 200k, is really, really good. And I'm really excited to see what this spec can do with some actual item level and some actual gear. Like some good trinkets and, stuff like that, right? I think there's the possibility for some really nutty numbers coming in there. And then we move forward, and then the problems start, right? So it is Afflicted week, and I'm not going to lie. My expectations for Afflicted were very, very low. For pugging Afflicted, I should say. And they were not met. The Holy Paladin in this group was absolutely bonkers beyond belief. He was so good and had like all the dispels. I asked the shaman to take poison, a dispel totem, to help with Afflicted. They said yes. I inspected their talents. They took it and still ended the dungeon with a grand total of 2 dispels. I think maybe 3. And I just don't understand. So we're just going to get this one out of the way very quickly because I don't want to mention Afflicted I don't want it to be the common theme of, oh my god, pugs. But if you have a dispel, okay, poison, disease, curse, dispel, and you are able to take care of Afflicted, do it. I don't even know why I personally have to be here and try and make the justification on why you should fucking help the team. And we're going to use Freehold as the perfect example here, and we're going to skip ahead to the second to last pulls after the bridge. The Iron-Tide Enforcer puts a massive, nasty debuff on the tank that needs to be dispelled, especially if you're something like a Blood DK or anything like that, that reduces your healing by like 80%. And that thing trucks. It hurts. Well, if the healer's dispel is on cooldown for Afflicted, they can't get that off the tank. And if it's on the tank, there's a chance the tank will die. Right? There's a decent chance that's going to happen. Now, that thing can be spell reflected, or AMS, by the way, if you're curious. It can also be diffused magic for Brewmaster, a little thing like that. But that's one of those pulls where the healer needs their dispel for the tank, and needs their dispel for that pull to go smoothly. So why you as the tank, why don't you help? If you have a dispel, why don't you dispel? If you're, It's not a healer affix. It's an everyone affix. It's a team Just dispel Afflicted and shut the fuck up. Simple. Cool. Got that out of the way. Now we're going to have a good time going through the Assassination Rogue as we try and get our fortified IO. Now, Freehold, we ended up timing it, but man, I think Ret Paladins are slowly becoming the new hunters, and I don't think it's slowly. I think they're smashing their way there on a crashing freight train into eternity. Every boss, man. Like, the moment this dude would get some sort of mechanic, it was just floor. Like, every time. And this isn't the only Ret Pal that I've seen. This has become very, very common. No kicks, no dispels, just literally, I come here to smash things with big hammer, and if thing target me, I die. Like, that's literally what I see with Ret Paladins as starting to be a very common theme, and I'm hoping that that doesn't go. It's very unga bunga. Like, you know, but, whatever. We do end up timing the Freehold with some troubles. Like I said, some Afflicted got off. This healer was absolutely crazy and cracked and was really, really good and helped. Like, man, he had, like, all the dispels. He was healing a bunch. He was doing such a good job, and I want to commend that healer for doing such a crazy good job. But we end the key, and we go into a 10 Halls of Infusion next. Going into Halls of Infusion, I am quickly reminded when we get to the last pull before Iridius that I am not the tank, and where I normally stand as the tank, I cannot stand there as a rogue because bleeds hurt. So that is the thing that, you know, you start getting this muscle memory of kind of just the way that you do things, especially while, you know, you're kind of sitting there and you're just vibing. You're doing some damage, and all of a sudden you realize that you're standing where the tank's standing, and there's bleeds going out. By the way, bleeds hurt there as well. I gotta ask, the containment spheres, how do you gouge those? Okay, I know it's doable, like, mechanically, technically it's doable, but, like, you're supposed to gouge out the eyes. Like, where's the eyes on that ball? I don't know. Rogue things, I guess. They find them. One of the things as a rogue that's kind of begun to irk me about tanking is the fact that a lot of my damage comes from stealth garrotes, right? It does more damage when it comes out of stealth, and I have one button every 45 seconds that allows me to apply 8 at once. And that is where a large portion of my damage comes from. So if a tank does not do some sort of pull where I'm like, okay, this is where I need to be, this is where I'm popping it, or if it's like they're only pulling 3 things at once and then they're chaining in, it can get really annoying really, really fast for me. But I understand that the tanking role, especially, you know, as a tank main, is not the easiest to do. But one thing that tanks can learn how to do is learn how to clarify what their intentions are via their movement buttons. Right? So if, for example, on this gauntlet, if you're planning on going down and you're planning on getting them in once kind of you've got a little bit threat and you're set up or you're waiting on something, you can start slowly backpedaling and moving down the stairs, allowing the team to know you are intent on where you're going, or you can stay planted and be like, this is where I'm at now. What you do with the movement of your character can speak volumes for your DPS and their cooldowns. Before getting to the last boss, you have to defeat the mini-boss, Infuser Soraya? I think that's the way to pronounce that. Now, tanks, by the way, never tank her where she spawns. It is a horrible place to do that. Afflicted went off. It's really difficult to dodge all of the things going around the whirlpools and while you're trying to, you know, avoid the flash floods and things like that. And it's kind of difficult to plan out a little bit, especially if you're brain dead like me. Pull it out a little bit, make your life a lot easier, and also dispel Afflicted, guys. Like, that's a thing that people are allowed to do. 2 stacks of Afflicted. Come on, really? But that is what it is. Because I'm basically sitting here as a rogue. We're gonna use Freehold footage for this.
I want to do something about this, but I can't.
But yeah, I wish I could do something for Afflicted. I really do, and I think that's one thing that they really need to look at. Is this particular affix and Afflicted. It's really just nasty for a lot of specs that just don't have a dispel and they can't do anything, right? It kind of sucks. But they did say that they are going to be looking at Afflicted and reworking it. So we'll have to wait for 10.2 news when that starts coming out. And I'm assuming that's going to start trickling out in a couple of weeks because 10.1.7 is coming out. So we're going to kind of hope to see what happens there. But we do finish the Halls of Infusion and we go on to the next keystone. Very quickly, I am reminded how difficult it is to pug as a non-dispel F-tier spec on an Afflicted week, and my goodness, it is a lot of just mass applying to everything, and I'm really starting to think Blizzard should up the cap of how many things you can apply to from like 5 to something else, because only applying to 5 keys can be really brutal to try and get in. Maybe up that to 10 or 15, I don't know, but there's something that could be done there. Going into a 9 Nelth's Lair, we ended up with a Frost Mage and an Affliction Lock as our DPS partners, and about halfway through the dungeon, our mage disappeared? Died on what was, I thought, a questionable pull, but turns out they were just offline. Something happened. DC'd, rage quit, I don't know. And we had a choice to make. Do we 4-man this, or do we give up? Now, it's only a 9 Nelth's Lair, and the Warlock and I, the Afflock and I, were pumping pretty well. So we end up finishing the key. It's Nelth's Lair. We just took our time, made sure the pulls were reasonable, which, I mean, after Nax, they pretty much all are anyway. There's nothing too crazy there. Down the ad on Dargul, and bam, we get some IO for a fortified 9 Nelth's Lair. Pugging into a 12 Uldaman, we ended up having to wait for a healer. Shocker, I'm well aware, right? Waiting for a healer in Season 2 of Dragonflight? Never happens, ever. But this is where, as Assassination Rogue, I really wish we had some sort of AoE stun for dungeons, and I think that's something that's really holding the spec back. In a large pull, especially in something like Uldaman, where there's so many kicks and stops and things like that, where we do have some really good single target options, there's no real option for an AoE one, at least for Assassination. I don't know Outlaw, and I don't know Sub anywhere near as well, or at all, so I'm not going to say, you know, whatever. But we're playing Assassination for this, and this is something that we don't have. And I really, really wish for polls like the ones that you see on screen that we really, really had one, because it would be nice. One of the bad habits that I realized that I've picked up from Affliction Lock is I tend to focus on the biggest target. And as a rogue, I don't necessarily need to do that. All I need to make sure is that my bleeds are getting spread manually by me, but I should be focusing on some of the smaller targets that have very dangerous kicks as well, just to make sure that I'm sitting on them a little bit more. As long as I've got my bleeds, my ruptures, my garrotes, and things like that out, I should really have targeted things like Curse of Stone, which really did me in for a lot of damage in this dungeon, which is stuff that I could have kicked, gouged, stunned. I could have stopped more of. Could I have stopped every single one of them? Probably not. But could I have saved myself some headache, me and my group some headache, by doing this? Absolutely. And I think to be a better rogue, that's something that I need to start doing, and doing more often. Finishing that 12 Uldaman pumped us up to a 1391 IO for 79 great points there, and we go back to the pug grind. And on that pug grind, I seen what I now think retroactively is something that's incredibly sad. A 14 Brackenhide Hollow demanding an augmentation evoker.
No, Rogue can't do a fucking thing about Afflicted. Aug? You need an Aug for a 14? Here's what I'm gonna do. You need an Aug for a 14?
This hurts my head to even think that this is where this brain space is at. You don't, okay? You don't. You don't need an augmentation evoker for a 14. You don't even need it for a fucking 20. Like, it just kind of blows my brain. But this is what this is how people perceive the meta specs. And as much as people love to go at Blizzard to fix this, this is a community problem. We do this. We do this to ourselves. Okay, this is like, I did get lucky, and a tank lead took me into a 14 Brackenhide Hollow. He said he had faith after my note said, I promise I don't suck. So while I'm trying really, really hard to live up to that expectation, I proc cheat death on the first pull by being bad. And then 2 pulls later, I wasn't paying attention to the Vicious Claw Mangle, and splat.
Vicious Claw Mangle. My bad.
Also, re-stealths in Brackenhide Hollow with the ones that run away and the chain pulls that can happen. Oh my god. After the first boss and a cheat death proc, second one of the dungeon, we go right, as you should after the first boss in Brackenhide Hollow. And immediately, dispels start becoming a concern and an issue. So there's several things here. Number one, Afflicted. We've already been discussing this, right? That needs to get dispelled. But there's also a disease dispel from a totem that applies to the party. Now, you can kill the totem as fast as possible to limit the amount of dispels that go out. You could just dispel it. Paladins, by the way, this is a very common thing with paladins. I don't know why. You know you have a poison and disease dispel, right? Like, you have one.
What is it with ret paladins and literally just never dispelling anything ever? I just don't get it. Why is it ret paladins are like just not fucking allowed to dispel?
Afflicted.
Is this like in the fucking ret paladin fucking community fucking handbook guide or something? Like, and if you even think about dispelling, don't fucking do it. You're not allowed. You take the talent to appease the people, but you're not allowed dispelling.
You're allowed to press it. It's got like an 8-second cooldown. Little PSA, you are allowed to press it. Not just let it stack up to the disease stack up to 10 and just make your healer's lives miserable. If you have ever bitched at a healer for not healing you through that dispel, and you have a disease dispel and you refuse to press it, you're the problem, okay? I think we need to start calling out this kind of play, because dispels are so incredibly important in Season 2 of Dragonflight, and especially things like disease. Now, there's another thing in Brackenhide Hollow as well, called the alchemical potions. You're going to see them kind of around the entire dungeon, where it requires 25 skill in dragonflight alchemy, and you can open them up and get an infinite amount of extra action button dispels. And me as the tank personally, I actually pull my route around these. All of my tanks and my rogue, as of recording this, I'm currently leveling up my alchemy up to level 25 to be able to do this so I can have my own personal dispel. It is a 12-second cooldown extra action button that especially if the tank helps and pulls around those pots and pull, you can literally just go grab one dispel and just keep on going, saving your healers dispel for Afflicted or whatever else might need to happen, and just generally making life a lot easier. But as you can see here, we're 11-12 minutes into the dungeon and still 0 dispels coming from the ret paladin. Like, I don't know why this is a ret paladin thing. This is becoming a very common theme. As we get towards the last boss, we'll call this a normal Brackenhide Hollow run. The healer passed away. No. The healer died and is running back, and the tank decides he's gonna fucking pull the boss anyway. Yeah, I got bopped. Don't know why. Nobody's dealing with Afflicted. Things are a total crapshoot, and we wipe. But luckily, we had plenty of time left on the timer. We ended up timing it anyway, but just wait. The run back's not as long. I don't know. We did have several uneventful runs that kind of went along, so I'm not going to go through and talk about every little bit of IO that I got, especially were ones that were pretty boring runs where, it was just clean, everything worked out well. But we ended the week with a 13 Neltharion. That was something else, let's call that. Tanks, you got to really learn to pull more than one mob at a time in a 13, okay? And if you are uncomfortable doing that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? We're still learning, right? That's still the key level where it's learning, but you have to be comfortable enough with yourself and your defensive capabilities to be able to do a little bit more than that in a 13. So what I would suggest is going into a lower level, like a 10 or 11 or wherever you feel comfortable, and trying out those bigger pulls, seeing where you need to be comfortable to be able to do that and to be able to live it and go from there, right? We finished off this week at 11:55 IO, and we had, unfortunately I wanted to keep going, but we had some trolls in my Twitch chat, which really made pugging even more impossible than it already was. So now I'm going to be coming up with some countermeasures to being able to deal with that on stream, going incognito, and other things like blocking the pug screen, which would probably suck for some YouTube content, but unfortunately this is something that I do want to stream as well and interact with my viewership. So we gotta kind of make that go, we gotta kind of find a balance, right? But Twitch trolls are always going to exist. I just need to find a way to, you know, be smarter than them. Or call them out and do it that way too. But I'm going to let the last clips for this Neltharion finish off the video. I still had a lot of fun. Paladin tank in this Neltharion. Listen, man. You got some basics to learn, which is fine, right? I don't want to call you out on anything. I ended up being a little toxic, and I'm going to call myself out here. I ended up being a little bit toxic in this run because I was like, what are you doing? Some of these pulls are just wildly, like you gotta do, you gotta pull a little bit bigger, right? I'm gonna let this finish off. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Episode 3 is coming. It will be out this week as well. Again, sorry for the lack of content lately. A lot of stuff going on. Have yourselves a good one, everyone. Happy stabbing.
I swear to God, if this is all, I'm not leaving if this is all you're pulling. I'm not breaking my stealth for 3 fucking tamed phoenixes. Are you out of your fucking mind? Oh, oops. No idea how that happened. Oh my God, man. I can feel my beard graying. I can literally feel my fucking beard graying. There you go, there you go. Listen to the Maz. I will guide you in the ways of fucking doing fucking decent pulls that aren't gonna fucking blow fucking everyone's fucking head to smithereens. There's 0 chance this key's getting timed. 0 fucking chance. Well, good thing is we have good content for the next episode of Assassination Rogue.
Afflicted.